Welcome to Driftwood Conversations. I'm Hillary Sloan. Today I'm talking with my friend and colleague, Heather Clisby. Heather is a fellow reporter at Z1077 and a true local witness. She's the kind of journalist who shows up, listens carefully, and then does the hard work of making a long meeting, a tangled issue, or a complex moment understandable. Heather's also lived a big layered life. She grew up in Long Beach, started writing early, worked in print, magazines, film coverage, and public relations during the wild early years of the internet, and then made her way back to what matters most to her: hyper-local reporting and real community connection. Out here, Joshua Tree and the desert, she's also part of the creative world, including improv and sketch comedy, and she's a hike guide in the national park. In this conversation, we talk about what it means to stay sane while staying informed, why local journalism still feels romantic, how the desert gives mental space, and why so many of us are hungry for real connection right now. Here's Heather. Hello. Hello,
yes,
Heather.
Thank you. I feel like some of my favorite things, journalism, comedy, travel, sex even, they're all kind of changing. And I'm like, wait. So it's kind of an interesting time to have a conversation about these things,
Also, comedy, with your job, you're still doing comedy. You're doing stand-up and improv.
I don't do stand-up anymore. I did a long time ago, but I still do improv, and I'm in a comedy sketch group. And, out here in the high desert, I always call it like the world's biggest performing arts high school for adults, and it's just spread out, really. Like everybody has a million projects that they're working on creatively, and that's a beautiful place to be in, really, out here.
That's so unique about this place.
It really is. Yeah.
It's lovely. So how long have you worked for the radio station?
I think this August it'll be 8 years. And it's changed so much. I'm not just talking about the layout. Like this room that we're in right now, it used to be the dumpiest room ever, And of course the staff has changed and all that kind of stuff. But, we've talked about this, being able to work for a mom and pop. Literally, there's a mom and a pop owning an independently owned media company. It's so rare these days and so important and so unique that just by even being here, I feel very lucky.
Absolutely. And the editors, Jeff and Robert.
Yeah, they really raised the bar.
They raised the bar. And to be edited, I've worked out here for a while, and to have somebody really on top of you and saying, you could do a little better.
Yeah, I just did a piece on the CHP, and Robert and I went round and round on some things, and I'm so glad because, of course, that makes it better. Of course it does.
It makes it better.
Yeah, it really, really does. So it's grateful.
And I always find it's so exciting to have an interaction. When you're working alone, it's tough for me.
Yeah, you're in an echo chamber in your head. You need feedback. You need editors. That's why the acknowledgments page is always so long in a book or a novel. You know what I mean? You the credits. You've got to have these things.
Well, that's why the big news organizations work in teams.
Yes, right.
It's great. Do you remember the first moment you were drawn to journalism?
Yes. Okay, so this is a cute story. So I think it's I want to say 10th grade or something. I'm at Lakewood High School. This is outside of Long Beach. I grew up in Long Beach. We had our English teacher, Mr. Garrettson, gave us an assignment. And the assignment was to take a nursery rhyme and write it up as if it were a news story.
Oh, wow.
So I did that. I took Humpty Dumpty. And I wrote it up as like a crime scene, basically. And, I turned it in and whatever. And then I think it was like a few days later, the teacher, Mr. Gertson, said, I gave you guys this assignment and nobody did it right. No one did it at all except for one. And I'm going to read it right now. And he read my story, right? And I just remember getting this feeling like, what? Like, I wasn't used to getting called out for my academic prowess or anything, And then later on, he was the academic guide or whatever for the high school newspaper. And not only did he insist that I be on that staff, but he gave me a column, Clisby, which I don't know if you know this, to this day is what I call, that's my email. That's, it's on my business card. Like I still use it. It's a play on my last name, Clisby. So it's Clisby. Anyway, I had this column for like 2-3 years, whatever. And I was drunk with power. I just succumbed to whatever whims I had and was writing in the first person, which is another ego boost. You get.
What did you write about?
I just wrote about like new rules at school, different characters among the student body, just observations. Like they kind of gave me free reign. That was addicting. I'm like, I have to get out of class because I got to go interview the janitor or whatever. It didn't matter. And so I was like, no, I think this is what, because I'm already curious. I'm already going to ask those questions anyway. So why don't I do that? And so I did do that. And I got my degree in journalism, Cal State Long Beach. Went back to him later, Mr. Gerritsen, and thanked him for just, that's what a good teacher does, right? It shows kids what they're good at. It taps into their potential. And he really did that. So I'm super grateful.
Now, you were telling me a story about working in San Francisco. How long ago was that?
Journalism never really pays all that well. I mean, my first journalism class, I remember the teacher saying, if anyone here wants to make money, the marketing class is down the hall. From the get-go, this isn't why you're doing it, right? So you take all kinds of jobs, right? And so I started out doing print journalism, newspapers. I was in newspapers for quite a while, covering local politics. And then I got a job as a restaurant and food critic for 2 years. I ate everything. And that is the job people think they want. However, it takes something really lovely and luxurious, and it turns it into work. It took me a while before I was like, oh, my God, I don't want to go out to eat anymore. I just want popcorn for dinner, So that was educational. And then I worked writing about film and covering film festivals for the radio in San Francisco, KUSF. Magazines. I did a lot of magazine stuff. I worked in blogging. This was when you could get paid as a blogger. So I did that for Blog Her for several years. And then public relations, because the .com thing was deflating, the .com boom, right? So all this money that was just swimming around in San Francisco just went kablooey. And everyone scrambled. It was like musical chairs. And I was like, I'm just going to find a brick and mortar old company and work there. And that's how I got into public relations. And so I did that with all these big clients. I met Jeff Bezos when he had hair. I met Steve Jobs when he was alive. You meet all these people, at that time period, the birth of the internet, right? So I did that for a long time. And then so now I feel like I'm back to where I started, which is pretty, I think, romantic thing. Actually, I'm back to hyper local media covering local politics and local issues, and to me that's very appealing. That I find that very worthwhile. To me, it's like you're like a little truth warrior, especially now.
So you already spoke about the station changing. How did your work change, your writing, your view of even this place?
When I moved here about 8 years ago, and I think I've told you, I live in my grandparents' vacation home that they built in 1960. So I have childhood memories being in the desert here and, all stuff. But moving here full time about 8 years ago, I had already made up my mind I was going to get involved in the community and go to city council meetings and just pay attention and be a citizen, And so this job has really helped me to that task. As you know, right? You have to go to these meetings and you have to pay attention, and you're the witness for people that are not there. And a 4-hour meeting has to go through the filter of your brain. You have to distill it down into a minute, 2 minutes. And so you have to be succinct. At the beginning of journalism school, they teach you about the whole concept of being a gatekeeper, which is still a thing, right? You're deciding what to put in and what to leave out. That's a human brain that's doing that. You have to see at this level that democracy is slow and tedious and quite boring. When it's working well, you don't hear about it, and it's slow and boring. So you realize that when you're going to all the meetings and watching people make these hard decisions. And I do notice people that complain, they never go to meetings. They haven't really checked in on that. So I would say this has given me an appreciation for civic leaders, to be honest, because I don't want to do it. This is my end of democracy that I'm holding up. This is my job. They're doing their job, you know.
What's your favorite topic to cover?
Anything to do with the park, the national park, anything that's just funky and weird, which is not hard. Everything out here is funky and weird, right? That's everyone.
The JT effect, yeah.
Yeah, the Joshua Tree effect, you know. And we have such a reputation nationally, you know, as you know. You say you're from Joshua Tree. Oh, I did mushrooms there once. Did you now? That's crazy. You know. I also the physical beauty, right? So I think one of my favorite stories I did was not very long ago, was on the chinchweed. Remember we had an explosion of chinchweed, that yellow stuff all over. It was like last October.
So beautiful.
So I did a story about, you know, what is that and why is it? And it smells like cumin, has a bit of cumin in there. You know, nature stuff. It's non-controversial. Nature's going to do her thing, you know. She doesn't care what's going on, really. And you know, I would say even the meetings, even though they're, like I said, they can be tedious and dull and confusing sometimes, but they're also human beings are running it, and they're wildly imperfect. But yet we're in this construct of like, you know, parliamentary procedure. Did you motion that? I don't know. Blah blah blah. You know, we set up these formal dance routines that have to adhere to it, and you know, I find that kind of adorable.
But I did, when I covered the meetings, I got great respect for the city council and the town planners, because they were really working their hardest.
Yeah, and they all have day jobs.
Yes.
They all have day jobs, and, you know, I think they are compensated somewhat, but my God, if you're out going after money, that is not the easy way to do it.
Well, they have obligations, too.
Yes.
Yucca Valley particularly, because I don't know 29, but they had to go to meetings. They had to take on other
subcommittees,
and oh my God,
it's endless. It really is. I mean, I do my thing. I write it up. I put it in. You know, I move on with my life. They're still doing constant meetings. I'm with you. I have more respect for what that entails.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do love profiles.
Yes, I don't get to do enough of those, unfortunately.
You pitch stories too, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have 3 or 4 stories that I'm sort of, I should say too, historical features. I love doing those. Let's see, I did one on the Corner 62 building in 29 Palms, because it's been there forever. And then I went to a birthday party there on Sunday, and I went to use the restroom, and my gosh, there was my story framed right above the toilet. And I was like, hey, look at me. But, you know, when you do that, it's you realize it's appreciated, you know. So, yeah, I should add historical features, because I'm working on one right now about Smith's Ranch Drive-In in 29 Palms. Yeah, because this will be the 70th year that it's been running. So that will be fun.
That's great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so right now, journalism is up in the air in this country.
Yeah. I have a good friend that I knew back in San Francisco. He wanted to be at an anchor desk. You know, he wanted to be Peter Jennings. He wanted to be Ted Koppel. He wanted to be that was his dream. And he's old school, you know, Edward R. Murrow, you know, Howard K. Smith. Like, he's an old school guy, right? Well, these past couple weeks, he got the job at CBS. He's running the nightly news desk. Yeah, and it's a weird time to be at that desk and at CBS. He was always like, come with me, we'll hit the big time. And I'm like, I don't know if I want big time. I really don't, because now he's a target. And I see that, and I know he struggles with it. I don't want to say his name. You know, he's already getting enough. But, I mean, when I look at the situation that he's in right now, I'm like, whew, glad I'm covering these little meetings. Because I've always been drawn more so to the local and interacting with people that are being affected by the stuff that I'm writing. And you know this too, because we both have distinctive voices, I think, and names. And so when inevitably you run into somebody that's like, why do I know that name? Or wait, you sound familiar, or, that kind of thing. It's like super mild celebrity. Like, it's just as much as I could handle, basically. Right. But you do feel appreciated.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. There was a young man at the saloon one day. Bob and I were in there, my partner and I were in there, and he came up and he said, I know your voice. My mother listens to you every day.
Isn't that great?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great because you feel part of this community.
Yes.
And you're cheering for them, and they're cheering for you.
Yeah.
It's a very mutual.
Yeah, and I feel appreciative of the listeners. I mean, they express their appreciation in different ways. Like they'll bring in like donuts one day, or they bring gifts for Kim, or one day when I was working a lot of DJ shifts, a girl came by and she had made me a patch, a David Bowie patch, because I guess I had talked about David Bowie or something. Like you really, more so than any other part of my life, I was like, I feel listened to. I feel heard in a weird, I never would have, because like I said, I've worked in print and newspapers and broadcast, all this. But in radio, look, community radio is a very specific bond with the community that I don't think you get out of print and things like that. So.
No, and I know you've done stories like this, and I get to do them, is when you announce an event and it's a nonprofit. And they're so grateful that you're helping them get known.
Yeah.
And getting the event information out there. And that feels so good.
Yeah, it does. The only sort of awkward moment I had was we had a fire breakout here. I can't remember, this 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, I happened to be working the board as a DJ, and my DJ name is Blaze. So I had to keep covering the fire as Blaze, which felt wrong. And I was contacting Sparky. I'm like, Sparky, get in here. Sparky,
I was going to say Sparky's name. I love that name.
I know. So we've got a unique place here because everyone's like, it's the middle of nowhere. I'm like, no, it isn't. Have you camped in Uganda? Have you lived in North Dakota? That is the middle of nowhere. We are 2 hours from Los Angeles. This is not the middle of nowhere. This is the edge of Los Angeles, actually. And everybody here I know has either lived in New York or LA.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have all these artists that have come here for freedom and space and affordability and community. We have this thing where we say, because there's a comedy group out at the Palms that I'm in, and we always say, we like to be alone together, which I feel like is a great description for the creative community out here.
How have you seen this community change, especially in the last 5 years after COVID?
Yeah, COVID changed society in general.
It did.
I feel like everything got thrown up in the air and it all landed down in a different place. That's kind of how it feels, And especially the young people, I felt, of course, really challenged when you're in school and you miss 3 years of sociability. That kind of affects things. But I think out here it's changed us in terms of housing and real estate. I've got a 2-story monstrosity behind me that screams Culver City because there's no awareness of your surroundings. There's no awareness of where you are. There's no check of ethos or culture. We're not Low Desert. We're not Palm Springs. That's our fancy sibling that we love having it at arm's length. We're Mad Max Burning Man up here, So
it's very easy to be confused up here when you first get here. I planted flowers all over the place.
I know. That's how we know where new people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always say you can tell the Marine wives because they have roses in front.
Yeah, I had roses.
There you go.
And then bunnies were really happy.
Yeah.
Everybody eats everything now.
I know. The visit, I will say, I had come here many years. In the 90s, I was out here all the time going into the parks. Hardly anybody in there. They weren't even hitting 1 million visitors.
Right. Even when I moved out here.
Right. And now it's, I think last year was 2.9. But anyway, the highest was 3.2 million a year. So it's of course that doesn't change the budget or their staff or anything. Like they're overwhelmed still. But, and I'm a hike guide in the park too. So I should mention that. So
you really know this place.
I don't know. A lot of people, I feel like, know it more than me. But as long as you know people that know more than you, I think you're fine.
That's great. Right? So back to news for the moment. with all the news going on, this constant uproar of events, and how do you stay sane in that?
Well, I think one thing is, Jeff and Robert do a lot of the heavy lifting, of course, of the news department, but they're also doing a lot of the crime coverage, right? They're covering the stuff that comes in over the wires or whatever overnight. So the sheriff calls and the DUIs and the hit and runs and the
fires
and the fires and the domestic abuse and all that kind of stuff. So they cover a lot of the tragic things, I should say. So I don't feel like there's a ton of tragedy left over for us to cover, which is fine with me. I don't need to, but so it's not that hard to stay sane when I feel like my topics are pretty palatable, pretty easy.
How much do you get involved with national news? Do you feel like you need to stay tapped into it?
I think news junkie is a legitimate term, especially as someone who has a journalism degree. I've never been able to really understand people that could ignore the news. I think I managed it when I worked the polls on November 5th. Not this last November, but I think I stopped looking at news until maybe a few weeks. That was all I could manage, because I feel compelled to know what's going on. I think it's good to know what's going on. Of course, you have to set a limit, because you can make yourself crazy. And then now you've got AI. So how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? I did, about a year ago, got a subscription to the print edition of The Atlantic. Because I still have print subscriptions to National Geographic. To me, that's one of my gold standards. Like if I see a typo in Nat Geo, I'm calling you, Hillary. Let's go get drunk right now. Life is over. Something has fallen in the universe. You know what I mean? Like there's some things you hold to a standard. And like I had a subscription with Esquire for years because the level of writing was so high. It was delicious, And so I still feel this way about the Atlantic. And so now I'm really enjoying the luxury of reading a print because I reading on the screen and online, it's not the same to me. It's too much distraction. And now I've lost, is the tab open? I don't know. But no. The magazine, there's no ads jumping in front of me. It's not good. You know what I mean? It's quiet time with the writer and me.
I love it. Last night,
yes.
I have a stack of New York Times that I haven't gotten to. And so I was going through them and devouring every word.
Yes.
And they went into there was a really interesting article about AI. And there were so many things I hadn't even thought about. And then the photography, because that's another love of mine. I remember years ago, I'd cut out the front pages of the New York Times and hide them away. And I still have them because they were the most brilliant photographs.
I had a roommate say to me one time, "You've got a magazine problem." Because having worked at magazines and having, been a features editor and been this person that figures out layouts and where does your eye go and, this kind of stuff, I consider them all to be little Bibles. And so I have a very difficult time putting them in there. I've thrown them in the trash, pulled them out, throw them in, pull them out. So I did find somebody who makes collages, and I felt okay to donate some to him because I'm like, at least they're going to get used and go somewhere. I donate them to the local bookstore, Raven's Bookstore in 29.
Oh,
she sells them. Yeah,
because I've got a stack of magazines. I used to get the Atlantic and Vanity Fair.
Yeah, I love Vanity Fair. Oh my God, talk about a devouring material. It's some magazines are really good at what they do. It's just
And Rolling Stone.
Oh yeah,
I mean, there's just
and Wired. I would say.
Yes.
I would say, so when I was worked at Burson Marsteller, which is a huge public relations firm, there's a reason you never heard of it. They're very good at it. They would pay for our daily subscriptions to Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Wired, the Atlantic, things like that. And every Friday we would have a quiz about what was going on in the world. And I loved that environment, of you have to know what's going on and you have to be able to hold conversation and you have to make these connections with your client to tell them why it's not a good time to make this statement to the world because this is what's happening in the world. You know what I mean? You had to connect it all because the world is a context that's constantly changing. You know, what it's okay to say now, as we know, isn't okay to say a week from now. You know, things are fluid. You know, so we've all watched movies from 5-10 years ago that you couldn't make them now.
No.
Right? So it's constantly changing under your feet. So I feel like as a news person, I need to be aware, but it's not like I need to be reminded. It's more of a compulsion, you know? So I could probably do with less news, but, you know, right now I think it's an important time to pay attention.
Well, you travel a lot all over this country, and that must give you at least time away to relax. And
you know, I was talking about this with a friend of mine because I have family. I have family in the deep South, like right on the bayou, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, and then we've got a farm in North Dakota a mile from the Canadian border. We're talking deep South, deep North, you know, the whole thing. And then
cold. You're talking cold.
Cold. And then I'm raised in Southern California, right? And then I just had this 2-year relationship that was in New England, which is a whole other pocket of culture that's fascinating, right? My dad lived in Washington State for a while, so it would be, you know, Pacific Northwest has its own thing, you know. So, you know, but when you talk to people that haven't really traveled this country, you realize how it gets into the they and them and the other, and that you don't really understand the culture. And you know, my friend was asking me, like, how do you go stay with your family in the South? It's just like code switching. It's code switching. You know, you got to pick your things, your hills you're going to die on. You know, I try to go and just listen, because I can tell you one thing that is always true my entire life. Everybody hates California. They make a sport out of it. We don't care anymore. We never did. Because it's so boring and common. It's so boring and common.
Right, the insults.
And when you move
But we love California. Don't you love California?
I do. But people that are obsessed with it, of course, don't live here. And so they're constantly like, oh, how do you handle it? Oh, I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's 72 degrees in January. How do I handle it?
Right.
Right. Can't imagine. You know, I don't know. I think this is where travel really helps, right? Is because you're different. We were talking about this earlier, the different histories. You know, you go to the South, the Civil War just happened last week.
Yeah.
They still got very, very strong opinions about it. And of course, if you've been to an ancient country like China or Japan or any other country, they can date themselves back how many centuries, right? And we're here, little baby, 250 years. Like it's barely a country globally. Time-wise speaking, you know, it's still very much an experiment, you know. And so it's amazing to me that people don't really know their own country very well. And you can say that about America because it's such a multifaceted place and there's so many different histories. I mean, yeah, the South will worry about Civil War or whatever. They're still talking about the war with the British.
Yeah.
Still making Brit jokes, you know, and then you come here and the people are still making jokes about the Wild West, you know, or you go to the Midwest and they'll talk about the Homestead Acts and land and farming, and you know that's what's important. You know, so I feel like it would be impossible to get your arms around this country without really getting on the road, not a plane, but a road. That's where you get to know the country, you know.
So I drove to upstate New York. I was writing a book, and I had to see where I was writing about. So I took a car, and I just drove all over. And I went to Albany and the small towns up in there.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. It was winter. It was very cold. But I hadn't realized the architecture, the framework of their thinking was all about the war. The independence.
Yes.
About,
yeah.
You know, the revolution. Couldn't get the word for a moment.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is it's sort of, at least when I was there, which now is a long time, It's still 25 years ago, but it was kind of dying out. There were older people. The farming isn't what it used to be. The only towns that had young people and energy were fed by the cities. So that's a whole nother point of view.
Yeah. And those aspects of human civilization, they come and go. So a couple nights ago, I was reading an article in National Geographic, dork. Anyway, and they're trying to, the focus was on dying languages that have come and gone. And they were talking about this one language. Of course, I can't remember the name of it, but it was only around for about 400 years. And you think about it, only 400 years for an entire language. And the only reason it died out is because there wasn't enough examples for linguists to decipher it. So there's at least 3 or 4 dead languages that have not been deciphered because there's not enough example for scientists and people to figure it out. But anyway, I just, of course, thought it's an entire civilization and language that came and went.
So fascinating. And language always interests me. There was a story I wrote about a young man at JTHAR, Joshua Tree Highlands Artist Residency. And he was from Mexico, and his grandfather told him to write the story of his Aztec heritage because they were losing their language. And it wasn't that he was studying the language. He was walking around the country, or driving and walking, and meditating and contemplating that existence that his ancestors had.
Yeah.
It was, and that then he took that into his painting and his sculpture.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we're all sort of struggling for relevance right now, and to be heard and to be understood. And I actually lately have spent a lot of time on Threads. Because that is such a conversation that's going on. I didn't see this going on Twitter, but you can see in there almost like a burning desire to connect with fellow humans, and the encouragement and support and love that you give to strangers on this. I've never seen before on a social media thing. And everybody on there is like, okay, enjoy it while it lasts because it's going to get ruined. Like we know now. Things get ruined. They will get ruined,
Feel that on Substack.
Okay.
And I've started to talk to other Substack writers.
Right.
And yeah, it's like a community's building up. How are you doing? Oh, I was sick this week.
Right.
I mean, that personal.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to be on my podcast? Yeah. Will you be on mine? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the weirder the world gets, what did a friend say the other day? He said the elbows are getting sharper out there. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of it. It's almost inspiring the opposite in just regular everyday people, I feel like, who just desperate need to connect. And like, I held the door open for this guy the other day who was running to get to the door. He was so grateful, and I was like, oh no, we got to look out for each other. And I thought he was going to cry, and then I thought I was going to cry. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're all a little delicate walking around right now. It's kind of obvious.
Well, I heard somebody they said it to me the other day when we were talking about community and how things are changing right now, what's happening. And he said, think globally, act locally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a phrase from the 70s. I remember that.
Oh, didn't
that's an old one.
That.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's sometimes it's more important or more obvious than others. I think right now it's true. And it's hard. It's easy to feel hopeless about things that you can't control and that are so big. But I think it does come down to, be the change that you want to see in this world, and how you walk around in your community. What does your corner of the world look like? Yeah, how are me holding open the door for somebody else doing something for me? Like, you have to do these little connections with people in your immediate world. And what it's going to come down to is real life. What's IRL.
I definitely think we can do something. And I have to believe that. And, you are part of different groups. And those groups they exchange feelings and information and,
Absolutely. I mean, I'm in this theater group out of the Palms, the Laughing Bones. We put on a holiday show. Of course, it was super silly and hilarious. But I had said, and we were all kind of like, the holidays, whatever, But I said, those happy Christmas cards that you get in the mail, none of us are in those pictures. None of us. We are all people there that feel, somebody made the joke, well, we let our families down for sure. You know what I mean? I don't know. We don't fit into the box, the exact category. And I feel like a place like this, meaning not just the desert, but Southern California, the West, is a place that people came to be that. I mean, I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but when I moved to Denver, I had to move east to learn about the West for some reason. I don't know why. I noticed that people were like, oh, it's good enough, or this is good enough, or whatever. They would say it's good enough. And I'm like, what is that about? Good enough. And then the comedian Eddie Izzard performed, and he said, okay, right, well, okay, so Denver, right, okay. So you're all the people that came west, got to the foot of the Rocky Mountains, looked at that and said, you know what? This is good enough. It's good enough. We'll just set up a dry goods store. Be fine. And I'm like, oh my God, that's where it comes from. And he said the people that were really crazy had nothing to lose. They kept going.
Interesting.
And that's why you have Silicon Valley, Hollywood, the gold rush, people chasing their dreams and starting over. And like that attitude, that's only, 100 years? You know?
I have a good friend who's a cowboy. He's a rancher out here.
You've mentioned him before, yeah. Is it Billy or something?
Billy.
Yeah.
Billy Mitchell. And, we've talked a lot over the years. And cowboys appreciate solitude.
Need it, even.
They need it.
Yeah.
And yet there's a community and a community thinking. And
yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
It's a certain type of person that is attracted to living without so many societal constraints. A friend of mine pointed out, he's Canadian, by the way. He said, not all Westerners are born in the West. Some of us have to fight our way here. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I guess I got lucky in terms of that.
So how do you feel? How do you handle isolation with community?
That's a great question, Hillary. I'm going to ponder that. But you have to see, like I was fine, a couple years ago, 'cause I'm pretty independent. Like even as a kid, I would like play Monopoly with myself. My parents were like, she's a weird kid, like I like people around and all that, but I like my own company. So I'm pretty good with that. Fortunately, I got into a relationship that was very intense and that ended. And now I'm left with this sharp feeling of aloneness. And I know it's temporary, and I got to work through it, but I never noticed before I was alone, and now I notice. And so that's waning a little bit, but it's something I'm conscious of. And I really have to push myself to get beyond it, because this is a great place to go, for me anyway, to go to a show or go to a thing, and I'm going to go somewhere by myself, and I know I'm going to see people I know.
And you're going to be safe.
I'm going to be safe.
It's no problem. Nobody's going to hassle you.
No one's gonna, they will. I love confrontation with a bully. I really do. Like if someone thinks they can intimidate me, I'm like, oh, this is going to be delicious. Love it. So yeah, no, I know I don't get any hassles or whatever. And I feel pretty safe out here.
I do too, yeah.
I've never had any problems.
But that relationship isolation thing, it's interesting. I was alone for many, 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 many years. And now there's two of us in one room. And I think the saving factor is the desert.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk outside almost most of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read the other day, 40 million Americans live alone.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I was telling this to my sister because she's one of those that overlaps her relationships and then doesn't understand why. So she's on a no-man diet for 6 months. Yeah, I go, you need to hang out with yourself, okay? So she's like, what? So I'm trying to explain to her that this is a pretty common experience, the living alone. And we all know that you can be in a relationship and be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's not the answer either. Get a dog or a cat or a horse or a lizard, whatever. But as far as you want true companionship that's never really going to get on your nerves, it's probably going to be an animal.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah, most likely. I think human interactions are caustic at best.
Yes. And fraught with all kinds of tripwires, and you never know where they are until you've tripped them, and I don't think anyone is, men or women, is particularly good or bad at, you know what I mean? I think it's a all human problem.
There was a point in time back in the 80s when I was young, in my 30s, and I remember all these new couples would get together and they'd be so in love, and they're going to write a book, and they're going to tell other people how to be in relationships. And 6 months later, it was a whole different story.
I know.
It was very funny.
Yeah, I do have some very good friends that happen to be married couples. And if I've learned anything from hanging out with successful married couples is have that fight right away. Get mad, say all the things. Don't let it simmer and fester. That's secondhand advice. But I mean,
I think the other thing that I've learned and participated in, get your own space.
Yeah.
I don't mean sometimes two houses are great, but if you can't do that, make sure you have your own friends, your own things you do, your own organizations you belong to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Especially the people we know, because they're active and involved. And if you're just hanging on someone else's coattails, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And I would say out here in this desert culture, it's very encouraged to be individualistic. No one's doing anything for a particular crowd or target market or market sensibility or anything like that. Everyone's just doing all their crazy weird stuff, and it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. I've told you this before, but one of my favorite things is this girl that came up to me at a party, and she was like, "Have we been in a band? I feel like we've been in a band together." And to me, that's like the best Joshua Tree thing ever. Right? Because everybody's been in each other's bands and in each other's projects. You know what I mean? And it's quite typical. Why wouldn't you be in a band together?
So this year I went, or 25, I went and photographed the Joshua Tree Music Festival.
That's right. They're beautiful photos.
And Bob went with me because I had some physical issues and he wanted to make sure I was okay. And it is the weirdest collection of people.
Yeah.
And they promote it. It's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked away saying, "You know what it is? It's freedom."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what a beautiful thing. Love and freedom.
Yeah.
Because the general attitude was, "Hi, how are you doing?"
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the essence of Burning Man. This is this thing, is everyone's got a project, no money allowed. What's your project? What's your thing? You know what I mean? And, everything that you've been taught is required is not. So that, to me, that's what festivals like that are, small versions of the same philosophy, which is great, but I go to a country western festival in Illinois, in Chicago, and they have that version of that. You know what I mean? It shouldn't look like a certain thing. It doesn't have to involve tie-dye, for God's sakes.
Right.
It can involve plaid or Carhartt or whatever,
Or cowboy boots.
Yes, exactly. So I when you say freedom and all that, I think that's a great description. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's certain things that I've noticed all over the world that bring people together. Music and sports.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When I was in Africa photographing the nonprofit I was with, they'd always bring a ball with them. Mm-hmm. And the kids, they'd look at us as we drove up and be suspicious. The minute that ball came out, everybody was out.
Absolutely.
Mothers, fathers, kids, everybody was out.
Yep. Yeah, that's such great connectors. I always say music, but yeah, you're right. I always forget to mention sports too,
Sports, yeah.
And I get really into the Olympics. It's the only time I miss having a TV. I don't have a TV is, because you want to see it on the big screen and everything. But but I think because it boils it down to some basic things of people using their bodies.
Yes, and the music
to express,
too, touches you in very deep ways. Mm-hmm. And you can have fun. It's just fun. You don't even need the language.
Yeah, and also, especially with sports, it doesn't matter. Oh my God. I once dated this guy he's addicted to gambling, mind you. But he would get so upset about, they almost won. I'm like, there's no almost. You won or you didn't win. And then there's going to be another game. It's very exacting. Season's over, or whatever, So it's like something you can depend on.
Well, there is something like the Olympics when you're watching professional athletes. It's gorgeous.
Oh my gosh. It's so inspiring. And how do they have a human body and I have a human body? Theirs seems different.
It is. I have to tell you.
Yeah. Simone Biles, but I don't work that way. My body isn't working that way. And admiration, of course, because how many hours of focus and practice and dedication that it took, to get to that point.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. And discipline.
Discipline and just constant dreaming. You would be training for what, 16, 17, 25, for thinking about the Olympics every time. I don't know. I really have to be focused on it.
So do you hike or do you climb?
I hike.
You hike.
That's a good distinction. Yeah, I have no interest in getting off the ground whatsoever. Not at all.
Actually, I thought about it, but my legs won't.
I don't even think about it. That's never even crossed my mind. I am a hike guide in the park, and so it sounds more rugged than it really is because you're basically teaching outside. That's all it really is. Of course, you're driving. I'm taking them on trails, or I'm taking them to areas that don't have trails. If I know, like if the park's really crowded, I'll take them to places that don't have any people. That kind of stuff. But you're basically explaining the boulders and why they look the way they do, and how the earth is eroding around it, and they're going to get bigger, and and the wildlife and the plants, and all that super nerdy stuff. And that's really what it is, and it's
science.
Yeah, and it's really fun to share that with people, and especially kids. Especially Canadians, but now they're mad at us, so we'll see them in 3 years. So that I enjoy that very much, especially because I travel a lot. I'm a tourist a lot. It's fun for me to help other tourists. And, I know that I'm enhancing their experience. I've had people giving me feedback. Oh my God, if you weren't telling us that, we would just be looking at it and going, that's pretty. We wouldn't know anything behind it. And even since I've been doing that, I now hire guides where I go, which I didn't do as much before. But now I'm like, I know what I'm bringing to the table. I know other people are doing that as well.
So what does the desert give you that other places don't?
I would say mental space. I grew up in Long Beach, in the suburbs, but the ocean was always available. And when you have that expanse of space, looking out over the ocean, it clears your mind in a way that's just not possible. When I lived in North Dakota for a while, you have space, and there's never anyone behind you on the road. It's delicious. And so I get that same peace and calm here, just having that. I could stand on my front door and see the Bullion Mountains, which are very far away, the whole basin, and, Copper Mountain. And I don't think I would enjoy that living in a forest as much. I would feel a little crowded and dark. If I'm living in some dark canyon place, I would like it to be New York City or something. You know what I mean? If I want to be crowded, I want to be crowded with all this kind of yumminess and culture.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You want that.
But, New York or Rome?
Funny you say that. I have a friend who moved to Rome, and she's like, when are you going to visit? You know?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, she actually flies here tomorrow, so we're going to brainstorm and whatever. But yeah, there's still so much of I mean, at one point I had bought a round the world ticket, and I was gone for a year. I did like 13 countries.
Oh, what's your favorite?
My favorite was Zanzibar, which
Yes.
is yes, the little island off the coast of Tanzania, the birthplace of Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
But it was just like your nose. Like I wouldn't have. You could go there be blind because you get off the ferry and you smell tamarind and pepper and curry and cumin and
Did you see the starfish that have geometric patterns on them?
I don't think so.
Oh, walking along the beach, I went snorkeling. And the starfish have patterns on
Oh
them.
my gosh.
And each one that I saw was different
Okay.
and different colors.
Yeah, it's a magical place.
It's magical.
Yeah.
And you have all these cultures. You know, you have the Egyptian cultures and the slave culture.
Yeah.
That's almost a culture.
Yes, yes. And you have the spice trade that was going on there, you know.
Right.
So the spices are still a big deal there. Yeah, that was a wonderful experience. I'd like to go back there. You know?
I would too, yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, you do that and you travel and you're like, okay, well, that should calm me down for a while. Pfft, it does not calm you down at all. All you can think about is all the places that you missed. And how you cross paths with other travelers and they're like, what? You never been to Patagonia? What? You got to get there. You know, it just adds to your bucket list, which just gets longer and longer.
So 2 more questions. Are you reading any favorite books right now?
Funny you should ask because I just invited myself into a book club the other day. I was like, you know what? I want them to ask me to join this. I'm not going to wait. I just turned 60. I ain't got no time. So I invited myself into the book group. And they're like, okay. And so, and then I went and got a library card here locally.
Oh.
So I'm finishing a book right now called There Should Have Been Castles, which is kind of a romantic, raunchy fiction romp, which I'm very much enjoying. And then what's the book called? There Are Only Good Indians or something Good Indians or something like that. I don't know. But that's the book group thing that we're going to read. And then someone gave me another book called The Rose Code. I don't know anything about that. So we'll just, but I'm glad you asked this question because I think that's going to be part of my sanity plan for 2026 is my dog, more reading and travel.
You know, that's interesting. I'm right with you.
Because the scrolling isn't helping anyone. If I feel like I'm trying to be strict with myself, like, okay, you want to read about, like I'm reading an article about RFK Jr. and why he believes as he does in these different health and science things. In other words, it's one thing to go, he's crackpot or whatever, like, but this writer spends time with him and gets into the weeds about why he feels this way. And I appreciate it, quite frankly, because I don't really want to have snap opinions. I want to know more about what he's right about and what he's wrong about. And because like it or not, this person's in charge of the health services. You know, I'm more deep diving on subjects and less scrolling.
I'm right with you. I have the same feeling. You know, I do love some of the British mysteries, so I watch them at night.
Ooh.
And they're just great. Or the BBC program.
Yes. I'm completely hooked on Call the Midwife.
Oh, that was a brilliant.
Yes. And every time I say it to somebody, they the same reaction. And a friend of mine, she finished all 12 seasons. She's like, I'm so jealous that you're starting it.
Yeah, I don't know if I got to 12 seasons. I should go back and check. But there's so many great ones that are just, I can't get enough of them.
Especially in a certain time in history.
Yes.
Late
I love
40s.
period.
Yeah, me too.
And also, I think reading fiction is such a relief from all the nonfiction we're both writing and doing. And it helps my writing.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah. I mean, that's what they told us in journalism school. Read your betters. Read your betters. Read people that are smarter than you. Read who's better than you, because that's the only way you're going to stretch. I appreciate it if I'm reading something and I come to a word I don't know. I have to look it up. I'm like, yay, a word I don't know. You know, I don't know if I'll use it again, but
So this was funny, and I can't remember where I saw it, whether it was Substack. Somebody wrote about reading James Joyce and Ulysses, and they wrote it with all the confusion. I mean, James Joyce is tough.
It's tough.
I mean, you want to understand it, you
Yeah.
want to read it, but it's tough.
It is.
And they just wrote about it with that right there,
That perspective, yeah.
right perspective.
And I think that would be really relatable.
Yes.
And something to enjoy also, you know? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love trying to follow writers. I mean, there's been books where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to finish this. And then you reach a crest and there's a turning point and then you finish it and you're like, I'm so glad I kept going. You know, so sometimes you got to hang in there. Just like,
Oh, Medium has, I think that's where I read that. And Medium is more about, there's a lot of literary groups on there. And I joined a writer's group.
oh, good.
And so it's for an hour in the morning, 7 to 8 o'clock.
Oh.
Once a month.
Okay.
And it's delightful. People from all over the world.
And you submit stuff and comment and
You can, but mostly we're just meeting each other and talking about writing.
right, okay.
Wins, losses, obstacles, you know, what the group means to you.
Yeah, what your daily writing habit is and
All of that.
All of that. Yeah, that's
And then you have 20 minutes of writing.
okay.
So you've written something, you can certainly post it
Right.
to the group. I haven't posted it yet to the group, but I've written.
Yeah, I get tempted to go on writing retreats and things like that. And then I'm like, that's not the answer. That is not the answer. You know, you don't need to spend X amount of money to leave your house. It's stupid, you know. So we don't do those things anymore.
So what are your goals for 26?
I would like to have a creative, an outline of a book, at least by the end of the year. And that I don't just mean like a page with numbers on it. I just mean like a structure of what I want and some stories, because I have so many essays and life experiences in me, and I turned 60 in December, and there's something about hitting a milestone birthday that makes you go, ah, and there's just something about the world crumbling that also makes you go, ah, and between those two, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm getting some signs from the universe that I need to just sort of stay still a little bit and go inward, and I don't mean in a unhealthy way, I mean in a creative way. So I'm trying to be stricter with myself about some things and set goals, you know.
Sounds great.
Well, I don't know.
Well, me too. I'm right with you, so we'll figure it out. So Heather, that was wonderful.
That was good, yeah. Yeah, we hit a lot of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get to, I feel like these conversations are so important, right, whether they're being recorded or not, you know, just connecting with people and hearing where you're at and where I'm at. And I feel like people are struggling, and the things that we do, talk, write, broadcast, helps, you know, because you never know who's completely on their own, really, truly, truly isolated, you know. And plus, it's, you know, you get to dig in, you know, when we were young, this is, you know, we didn't have the internet and this whole thing. So we'd sit around and gab our full heads off for hours.
Yes.
Right?
And the telephone.
And the telephone, oh my God, all this stuff forever. And, you know, kids don't even call each other. You don't call, you know, how about Friday at 1? Is it okay to talk? My God, back in the you just pull up the phone and call somebody, you know. So now it's like, oh, the personal conversation is just confrontational, you know.
Well, how many times do you go into a restaurant and everybody's on the phone?
Oh, I've seen entire families.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of bonding that's not happening.
Well, we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, I mean, you got so many interesting people that you got to talk to, so that's great.
I loved it. Thank you. Thank you. Heather and I talked a lot about local journalism and the family-owned radio station we both work for, Z1077. Along the way, we mentioned Robert Hayden, the station's online editor, and Jeff Harmatz, the news director and morning show host. We both appreciate Jeff and Robert for their encouragement, their wisdom, and their direction. The work Heather and I get to do there is fun, mind-expanding, and important, and we're genuinely grateful for the opportunity. Heather reminded me how much local journalism matters, not as a performance, but as a form of witnessing. She also reminded me that staying informed doesn't have to mean living in a constant scroll. It can mean choosing depth, choosing print, choosing books, and choosing the kind of long attention that helps us stay human. You can find more from me on Substack at Driftwood Conversations, where I share reflections, photographs, and notes from the making of these episodes. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribing and leaving a review helps more than you might think. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and keep finding your way back to what's real.